Okay. This is PSA, Philly Service Announcement, TakeOver Tuesday Takeover, love, support, grace, social activism, resources, entertainment. That's what we doing out here. Come get what you need. So we got a dope show. All our shows are dope. So I can't even say that no more. We got a dope show. You know, all our guests are special guests, so I'm not even going to say that anymore. So, so my co-host, I'm the assist. My co-host Nick, Raw Cannon, she'll be here in a couple minutes and everything. They ain't gonna leave me stranded again. But I do have somebody in the building who can get potholes filled in y'all community. That's what she's like. Nah. If you live in Southwest Philly, she can get the potholes filled. Like, nah. So I'm gonna let her introduce herself. You know, I don't do the introductions. You know, she might have some other names that she go by, Sasha Fierce, whatever. I don't know. So I'm going to let her introduce herself, tell y'all who she is, and we're going to get right into it.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Councilmember Jamie Gauthier. I represent Philadelphia's 3rd District, which is much of West and Southwest Philadelphia. I'm a newer member of council. I was elected in 2019, and I was inaugurated in January of 2020. So I've been in office for a little over a year and a half.
Okay. So before we get into, like, the nuts and bolts, the meat of it, as they say, where can people physically meet you, talk to you, find stuff out, you know, get the potholes filled, you know, because that's very important in this city. I'm going to harp on that whenever a politician comes in here, because it's crazy. It's tearing my car up, period, point blank. But tell people where they can come meet you, tell them what platforms you on, social media, so forth and so on.
Sure. Meeting in person has been a little bit challenging. During the pandemic, we are slowly transitioning back to City Hall, but we were working, all of my staff, from home for a year and a half. But we would do meetings out in the community. So if I have constituents, I'm always willing to come out to their block for a block meeting, meet them in a park. And you can always email me to request a meeting. I'm at 3rd District at phila.gov. City Hall is by appointment only, so people can come into City Hall, and me and my staff are back there in a limited capacity. So you can email me to make an appointment. You can also give us a call at 215-686-0460. And I'm at Councilmember JG on every social media platform, so Facebook, Twitter, and IG.
So one thing I do know about her for sure, she's very, very tangible. I've seen her at a lot of different events. I've seen on Instagram, seen her at events. She's come to my event, even though it was blazing hot outside. It was very wishy-washy, and she didn't like, what is this? Why would you have me come to this? You know?
No.
I didn't get that feeling from her at all. Like, I seen her at, like I said, at multiple events, so I know for a fact if you get with her, ask her to come out, she's gonna come out. She's gonna talk to you. She's gonna see what's going on. That's something I can say personally.
Thank you. Absolutely. Always willing to meet my constituents where they are. So if you have an event out in the community, if you want to schedule a block meeting with us to meet my staff and to air out your concerns, we're definitely happy to do that.
That's dope. Like, so she represents Southwest, but she ain't really from Southwest.
I am
She be trying to kick it like she's from Southwest.
I am from King Sussing, even though...
Tell her where you from.
I'm from the 1100 block of South Divinity Street in
Okay.
King Sussing. That's where I was born.
Right.
And you were born in North Philly, so...
No, actually, let's get the history right about myself. Because this is an ongoing thing with me and her. But I was born in South Philly. I lived in South Philly for 4 years.
Okay.
Then we moved to actually down 7th Street, right off of Snyder Avenue. My grandma lived between Snyder and Mercy, right on 6th Street, actually. And then we moved to North Philly.
Okay.
18th and Master. I lived there from 4 to 11. I always like to shout out Mead Elementary School. I had revolutionary teachers teach me in elementary school that helped shape me being somebody that's very curious about who I am, what's going on around me. Even though I had my missteps, a lot of the core of who I am information-wise, educationally, came from those teachers in elementary school, because I went there from kindergarten to 6th grade. And then at 11, I moved to Southwest. and that's where I came off the porch, so to speak. Was trying to become a man at, so that's why I always be like, yo, that's where I'm from. That's where I got my identity from. Her, on the other hand, she lived downtown, y'all. She lived up Winfield. Like, I don't really know about the Southwest thing, but what I will say, all jokes aside, yo, as far as I know, and I'm going to keep checking in on her, keep bugging her, keep asking her to come to events in Southwest Philly, she is about Southwest Philly.
Thank you. And West Philly.
And West Philly.
Yes.
And a lot of people who do events that I know, that I network with, that I run into, they can probably tell you this. Not probably, they can tell you the same thing, because I've seen the pictures, seen the IG. Now, this is the thing. You could take a lot of pictures.
Yeah.
But I need two things. One, what do you actually do?
Okay.
Like, what is your job description? And how, in your job description, do you best serve people?
Yeah.
Or can serve people?
So as a district council member, there are several ways that I'm working to serve my constituents. The first and one of the most primary ways is through legislation and putting forward laws that can benefit people in their everyday life. So that's a key part of my job. A key part of being a council member is also negotiating with the mayor on the budget. So as a body, council has to approve the budget that the mayor proposes before the mayor can spend anything. So that's a very important part of our job, is making sure that the city delivers a budget that serves the people. I also play a big role in zoning and land use decisions as a district council member, and so that's important in impacting. Yeah.
I don't mean to cut you off, but zoning. So it's like you have a part to play with, like LNI and stuff like that, or no?
Not so much LNI. Zoning is handled by the zoning board of adjustments, the ZBA. And so when a developer would like to build something in a community, what they can build is dictated by the city's zoning code.
Gotcha.
And many times, and so council members have the ability to put forth legislation that changes that zoning, right? And hopefully they're engaging with their community members about what zoning should look like, so that we can have a community that is best for us. Council members often are asked to approve a request for a variance if the developer wants to build something that's not approved in the zoning code. And council members also have a lot of influence over who gets city-owned vacant land. So if someone comes in my district and they want to buy a parcel of land that the city owns, they can't do that without me putting forward legislation.
Wow.
And so that's a key piece of my role.
Nah, that's see, this is the reason why I asked, like, what do you do? Because I'm sitting up here jokingly, but
I feel like these got like very loud all of a sudden in my ear.
I don't know. He could probably hear it in there.
Okay.
Oh, he turning it down now.
Okay.
All right. So, because I don't want you to go deaf on my show and then nobody else will want to come on. Nah. But listen, that's really important when we talk about gentrification.
Absolutely, it's important.
That's like, so how do you feel about gentrification? Like, people have a bunch of different, some people say, well, that's just capitalism, that's just business, that's just people need to take care of their communities, that's why it's able to be taken away, or, you know, like, how do you feel about gentrification, since that's one of the things that you do?
Absolutely. I'm going to answer that. I want to finish your first question. So the things that I do as a council member: legislation, influencing the budget, participating in zoning and land use decisions, constituent services. So that pothole that you mentioned that everybody wants to be filled, you can absolutely call me with that. But people call with a variety of issues. Lots of people are looking for housing or other resources, and they call the council office, and we help. And then advocacy on a host of issues. To your second issue of gentrification, that's one of the main reasons why I ran for office. Because, contrary to what you're always joking with me about, I am from Southwest, and I've seen the area that I am from change so much. And when I ran for office, I knocked a lot of doors. I knocked doors every single day to talk to the constituents, to hear about what they wanted to see in their district. And I think the thing that I heard most about was concerns about housing and the ways that neighborhoods are changing, and people feeling like rents are rising to more than they can afford. home prices, if they want to own a home, it's going out of their reach. People feeling like they're seeing their neighbors get displaced because they really can't afford to live in the neighborhood anymore. That's one of the main reasons why I ran for office, and I call what I'm trying to do equitable development.
Right.
So making sure that we have neighborhoods that work for everybody, right? And that in particular, working class Black folk who have traditionally lived in this district will not get displaced here and have the opportunity to live in desirable neighborhoods that have transit and jobs and schools and parks and all of the things that people want when they're thinking about where they want to live. And so that's one of the core pieces of my agenda, and it's one of the places where I'm most active.
Right.
Yeah.
So because I'm one of those people, I'm just going to always come out and be like, the elephant in the room is always race.
Yeah.
I mean, and it shouldn't be an elephant at this point, knowing what our history is. That's something we should really just be able to talk about openly.
Absolutely.
Without it being this
to.
big pushback going, like, why are you talking about this and that? Because that is every day.
Yeah.
It's an everyday thing, especially for people of color, especially for Black folk. So what part does race play in gentrification?
Well, the reason why our housing markets look the way they do is because we had racist policies over decades and decades and decades that took wealth away from Black people, that defined where Black people could and could not live, that stopped Black people from gaining wealth through housing, and that now is blocking Black people out of neighborhoods that they want to live in because the housing prices are too high. So we can't avoid talking about race when we had intentional racist policies that got us to where we are currently. And so I try to keep that at the center of my work, and I try to make sure that that's what my policy making is based on. So as an example, during the pandemic, I worked with a couple of other council members, Councilmember Gim and Councilmember Brooks, on legislation that would make sure that people didn't get kicked out of their rental units during the pandemic. And so we put forward a local eviction moratorium, and we said we're in a public health crisis where people are unsafe if they don't have housing, and you can't evict them, period. And we were the first city to actually say that, and then a lot of places followed us nationally. We also said that people who are suffering because of COVID, they've lost their job and they're unable to pay their rent, they have the opportunity or the right rather to get into long-term payment plans for back rent with their landlords. We said that people could not be locked out of their units, and we raised the penalties on illegal lockouts. And so I keep those issues of equity and race at the center of my housing policy.
The reason why I asked that question, one, because I'm a Black man, and everything that I do, and you can clearly see that I don't run away from it. I love it.
We all Black here.
I love it. But the reason why I always ask that, because when we get in positions of power, we have to play that game. It seems like, you know what I mean.
We do not.
All right, and I like that was your response.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, because you have people not wanting to say certain things because it's like, nah, I don't want the backlash for it. And it's like, but how can you really say that you're moving for your people and you're a Black person if you get into certain rooms and you use other words for race, and you start talking about minority, and then you start talking about poor people, and you know how you know what I'm talking about, as far as you try to sully the argument or make it wider for all these different people, when the people who need to be treated directly are Black people. When you look in these different areas, our history says it, but you can see it in real time.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with race issues in politics? How do you deal with it in the city? I'm sure you got some of your I can't even think of it right now. Your council members who I don't want to address race. we shouldn't do this behind race, with race. We should just do it over here. Say that it's class, or you know what I mean. You know how people try to divert away from it because they don't want to deal with it. Do you deal with that or no?
Yes.
Is that something that's not going on in city council in Philadelphia no more or something?
I actually think we're having more honest conversations about this as a whole, right? Particularly coming out of George Floyd and Walter Wallace Jr. and the racial reckoning that we've been having as a country. I think people all across the country are more willing to have these conversations. But I also think we have an obligation to, because the policies that got us to where we are were racist. And so the only way to change the dynamic is to address things head on. So I'll give you just a few examples. My district, the 3rd district, includes most of the educational and medical institutions in the city. And that's huge in terms of the assets that we have. We have jobs, right? We're a place where people want to come and live and work. But at the same time, there have been negative impacts. The universities were built literally on top of black neighborhoods. Black people's land and property was eminent domain so that the universities could flourish. There's no way that we cannot acknowledge that and address that in talking about what we need to do right now in this moment. And so when I'm talking with the institutions in my district, I am acknowledging what happened and using that as a basis for why they have to move differently, why they are responsible for investing in affordable housing, why they have an obligation to make better community partnerships. So I actually think this is an issue that we have to hit just head on. Yeah.
So before we jump right back into this, I got my partner Biz. He just stepped in the building, so you know what I mean. Let him duck on in there. Get out the way. Get out the way now. And I got Raw Cannon in the back. My co-host Nick coming through. You know, so we gonna let her jump right into it. Hold on for a minute.
So I ain't have to cut in front of the lady.
Oh, that's okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I apologize for my tardiness. Oh shoot, I'm messing up the microphone.
So the next question I was about to ask, and I'm sure Nick gonna have questions for you. Do you feel like right now is no holds barred with it, like it's not political suicide anymore at all?
I don't believe so. I believe that lots of members of council are pushing for more equity and pushing for our city to operate more through an approach of racial justice. And so I think that's how we should be having.
That's how we should be moving.
I think it's irresponsible to do otherwise. Yeah.
So have you dealt with anything personal?
Like, what do you mean?
Racially in politics in the city. Have you been approached in any? I mean, because we're going to talk about intersectionality, so I'm sure you could tell me about some things that goes on as far as you being a woman.
I would say that, I've been in many rooms, meetings where people come in with a certain level of privilege, powerful people, and they've been almost offended by me saying, this is what we expect to see for our community. And in those rooms, I've not always been addressed in a respectful way. And I kind of think if people could I've been in a meeting where I was pushing some pretty powerful folks to do something different than what they wanted to do. And I swear if they could have called me out of my name, they would have called me out of my name.
Oh my gosh, like one of those
but instead,
looks to kill
they
kind
just
of thing.
didn't use my title. So everything was Jamie, right? Whereas if you sit with a different type of person, you're councilwoman. And I'm not even a stickler for that, but it got me thinking, like, if they could have called me something else, they probably would have.
Nah, I got you.
I still walk in rooms confidently, and I'm very clear about my power as a councilwoman, and that I have a responsibility to use that power in a way that represents my people, regardless of whether somebody is going to get mad or offended. I also am in a lot of discussions with developers who are offended that I'm asking them to do something that's different or more than they want to do. But I try to just keep focused on what I know my mission is. I had those conversations at people's doors about what they wanted to see, right? And if I don't do that, I don't deserve to be here. And so I'd rather do this job to the best of my ability, and please the people that I represent, than please, wealthy interests who don't so much agree with the agenda of the people.
Right. So I want to know also what are the aspirations, like, or if you city councilwoman right now, like what is the next steps? What are the things? I mean, if you can talk about that, because sometimes y'all don't like to talk about it beforehand.
I'm focused on being a city council person, right? And I'm in my first term, and there are so many things that I want to achieve. Like, I'm working on a piece of legislation. It's called mandatory inclusionary zoning. It would mandate that developers include deep affordability in any new construction that they're building that's over 10 units. That would be huge for neighborhoods like the ones I represent, where development is so hot, and most of the development is out of the reach of what ordinary working people can afford. I'm working on another piece of legislation that would give preference to grassroots organizations that want to get access to city-owned vacant land to do things that benefit the community, like permanently affordable housing or urban gardens or things that we need. And also, I've been very involved around advocating for our city to take a different approach with respect to gun violence. I'm an urban planner by trade. That's what I went to school for, and I never thought that this would become my top issue. But my district has been so impacted by the gun violence that's tearing apart neighborhoods in our city that it has to be at the top of my agenda. And what I'd like to see is our city take a more serious approach to violence prevention. We put a lot of resources into policing, into courts, into prisons, and I think that we could do a better job at
preventative measures.
All of the things that can invest in people in neighborhoods in a way that would cut down on the violence dramatically. So I have some big things that I want to accomplish as a council person, and then we'll see from there.
So what is something, when you talk about preventative measures, because we talked about that here, you got to deal with the problem as it is, but how do we keep the problem from keep repeating itself? You know what I mean? So what are some of the things that you think work preventative wise? Like, I know we got a whole bunch of stuff out here to try to solve it, curtail it right now, but what are some of the things you think should be done so it won't keep happening?
Well, one, I think we could be doing more in this moment as a city. I put forth a resolution about a year ago asking the mayor to declare gun violence a citywide emergency in Philadelphia. And what I mean by that is that all of the operating agencies of the city should have gun violence as their number one priority, and they should be resourcing and servicing the neighborhoods that are most dealing with this issue on a day-to-day basis. I think that we should be looking to have our rec centers open for as long as possible with safe activities for youth. We can even have social workers and other resources at rec centers to help young people, particularly since a lot of what we're seeing is violence among young people. I think that we should have a better crisis intervention or credible messenger strategy. A lot of what we're seeing, especially in my district, are these like street group beefs, right? So these different areas like biting back and forth at one another. We need people that young people look up to and trust that can get between some of these conflicts before they turn into violence. And we should be paying more people to do that work because it's valuable, and they can and credible messengers can do this work in a different way than police can. So that's a strategy that we need to be. We're doing it in a small way, but we need to be expanding that strategy right away. We need to be offering real, meaningful job opportunities to the people most likely to shoot and be shot, and we need to do that now. We need to have more trauma support for our neighborhoods because there's so much violence happening that people, it's traumatic, right? So we need to help people heal, but also helping people heal cuts down on retaliatory violence. And so there are a number of things that I think we can be doing in this moment to cut down on violence if it's our number one priority. We also need to support the organizations that have been in our community city trying to cut down violence for years with
Yeah.
no support,
Right.
from the city or anybody else. So this is something that I've been advocating around for the whole time that I've been in office.
And I appreciate, because you touched on a lot of things, the young people, the trauma, and that's one of the main focuses for me is the young people and the trauma. And because you got to look at it this way, a lot of parents are out here working 2-3 jobs. You know what I mean, to try to support their families, and these kids are at home, with themselves. Sometimes, moms don't have the resources for care and, child care and stuff like that. And then there's the ones that's kind of old enough to be on their own. There's that transitional age youth population that's just kind of getting forgotten about.
Yeah.
And it's, it's kind of difficult for parents to be out there working, trying to take care of the kids, and the kids are at home and there's no resources. There's nothing for them to do.
Absolutely.
And when you think about all of the things that you're trying to do for zoning and properties that are just vacant, doing nothing but accumulating trash, these vacant lots and properties they can build things on this land to produce resources, things for the children to do, employment for people in the community. And when you think about it, that starts the process. That's preventative.
Absolutely.
When you think about things that you can do to minimize the violence, get these children something to do. You know what I mean? Provide more jobs out there, closer to home. A lot of times a lot of parents living in Philadelphia got to travel outside of the city to get a decent paid job to take care of their kids. And do you think about public transportation? It's going to take you an hour or 2 hours if you don't drive. And they're not getting home till 10, 11, maybe 12 o'clock at night sometimes.
Yeah.
And then, it's that struggle with balance, because then, the moms, if they are single moms, there's that inequality as far as pay, that they're struggling with. And we'll, touch on intersectionality in a moment. But I would definitely like to see some zoning that can produce some vacant lots, buildings that provide services for kids, and also employment.
No, I think that's a great idea. And just bringing it back to what we were talking about earlier, I see this as a racial justice issue.
Right.
Anytime we're at a point in this city where the black and brown people who live in this city cannot.
And this is a minority city.
Yeah.
Yes.
I say that to people and they be
Yes.
like, "What?" I be like, "Yeah, it's about 60% people of color."
Right.
If I'm not mistaken, about 55-60% people of color.
But anytime we live in neighborhoods where we can't go to the park or the
Right.
rec center or be on our porches, or go to the grocery store, a baby was shot in the grocery store in my district, and we can't live a normal quality of life without a fear of being shot, that's a racial justice issue. And furthermore, the neighborhoods that are seeing this are the same neighborhoods that have been traditionally disinvested by government for decades. We have an obligation to step up in this moment and to do more.
Yes.
So I want to ask this about violence. So the first thing I want to say is there are organizations, who address those 13 to 18-year-olds. Like I work for an organization called IDE on Broad and Dolphin. But one of the things, the reason why I bring that up is because one of the things that you said and that my co-host said is about at that young age, it's like nobody's there to inform them about identity, like where they going, who they are. One of the questions I ask them a lot is, who are you? Like where do you come from? You can start off with saying I'm the son of this person, but who are you? Because we talking about 13 to 18. That's the population that's out here doing the most stuff. And they feel like it's just a regular thing, though. Like, so when we start talking about trauma, when y'all listen to music or watch movies and the part where somebody getting hurt, that's what y'all laughing at. Or that's the part that make you want to hear the song. Like, yo, that's what I want. Like, that's trauma. Because you've been desensitized. at 14, 15 years old, violence is regular to you. So it's like, it's almost, if you not looking at it in that way, it's almost like you're not cool.
Right.
If you looking at it and covering your face, or if you look at it and maybe even start crying, if you're affected by it, if somebody can see that you're affected. Exactly. Right. And this is what I'm dealing with. Like, they 13, 14, we listening to music. The part about somebody getting their head shot off and all that, that's a part that make everybody perk up. That's a part that everybody talking about. You know what I mean? So what are we doing? Like you said, we need it, but what are we doing right now? Like, this program is for after they get in trouble, though. You know what I mean? Like, where are the programs? Like, I talked to a brother's name is KB Powers. He got a camp that he runs from 11 to 13. He was like, that's the age group I got to deal with, because you can still physically be imposing to them to get them to listen.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And I understood what he was saying as a man. Like, he 11, 12, he just was sleeping in the bed with his mom. So I could still physically just be like, yo, young boy, stop doing that. But the cat that's 14, 15, I need a different type of structure around me to get him to do what I need him to do, because we probably the same size. We probably done did some of the same stuff. Right. If he did it. And right. Then that leads to the credible messenger thing. Mm-hmm. Like, I know that I'm a credible messenger. They tell me this. Mm-hmm. Like, yo, Mr. Jarue, we listen to you because you got a story. Mm-hmm. You're still actually kind of dealing with the same stuff we're dealing with right now. The guy that teach tomorrow, he not from where we from. He talking about military stuff.
Can't relate.
Can't relate. Not that this brother is telling them anything wrong, but it's like, yo, you don't know my life. They quick to say that. You don't know my life. Yeah. And they 14, 15, 16 years old. So, like, what does that look like to you when you say, I want something for the kids? Like, do you visualize anything where it's like, this age group, we want to prevent them from doing these things. What do that look like? Like, give me a little bit of detail.
I think we have to have opportunities that are across the spectrum, right? Mm-hmm. For the people who have been involved or are involved, and for the people who are at risk. Maybe right. They're not involved yet, but they're at risk for being involved.
Right.
And so I think, a part of it is violence interruption. So that's where we have credible messengers that they know who the players are in neighborhoods. They know what the back and forth shootings are about. Maybe they can get between some of that, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe they can reach some of those people and connect them to a job opportunity instead, if the opportunity is meaningful enough.
Right.
But for younger kids who are at risk, we have opportunities for them too, right? Mm-hmm. We have activities for them. We have counseling if that's needed. We have things that can engage them, that can help with their education and keep them out of that
right.
path. So I think that we have to be thinking about this in a very comprehensive
way.
Now,
I know people don't like to assign themselves, especially in your position, just assign themselves to different organizations. Mm-hmm. Because people will think something going on there. Oh, that's the one that the councilwoman supported. And it's like, I don't really know them cats. I knew what they was doing and I thought it was good, so I mentioned
right.
them. But is it any, if you can or if you want to, is it any organizations that's out here already that you think just need to get more funding, that you've been able to deal with, or you don't really know any?
I mean, there are a range of organizations.
But any that you know that you kind of was like, okay,
sure.
I like what they're doing. I think we should be able to help them in some way to get more kids or to get more structure or, everything that funding does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there any organization that you know off the top of your head? Yeah, I love IDAY. I love IDAY because they gave me a job.
Y'all do good work too.
Yeah, they definitely do good work. Though.
I like Philly. They're working with youth out primarily in West and Southwest Philly, but also some from South Philly, I think,
right.
and doing a great job. NOMO Foundation is doing a great job. Young Chances, Anton Moore is doing great work out in South Philly. Mm-hmm. So there are a host of organizations, and I should also say that during this most recent budget fight, a couple council members, myself, Kenyatta Johnson, Kathy Gilmore Richardson, and Helen Gim came together to rally the rest of council around demanding $100 million in funding for violence prevention and intervention. Right. We didn't get the 100, but we got $70 million in new funding, which is a historic investment for the city. $20 million of that was specifically for grassroots organizations that are doing
Right.
this kind of work, and the RFP process is open right now. So all of those
Right.
organizations,
They need to. We need to get on board.
Right.
yeah. So
Right.
you can go to the Office of Violence Prevention's
Right.
website and find out how you can access those funds, and the opportunities will be, anywhere from $100,000 to $1 million.
Right.
And that's what we wanted to happen. Like, we know that these organizations have been piecing together
Right.
support in order to carry out their work, and we wanted them to have real and sustainable funding because this work is important.
Right. Do you have your own organization of any sort? Are y'all allowed to even have that? Can you have like a nonprofit or something going on that you? I'm just asking a question. I'm not saying that I know that you have. Are y'all allowed to do that? Like, are y'all allowed to have like organizations that y'all like personally support? Like, yo, I really like what they do with homeless shelters, so that's something that you support this organization.
I mean, I give to organizations, and then as a council person, like my office partners with various organizations.
Okay.
I don't run my own.
You couldn't have your own.
I mean, my
Could you?
organization is my council office.
Right.
Right.
So I
can imagine.
I have 7 people that work for me,
Right.
which we're a small but mighty team, and we have a ton of things to work on, and that's a more than full-time job. So I don't think I have the capacity to run a different organization. And my job is not. My job is to support the people who are doing the work,
Right.
Right.
and
Right.
to drum up resources for them to do their
Gotcha.
great work, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfectly good sense.
Okay.
Now I know I was late and y'all probably
No,
went
you
over
good.
this already, but
No,
like
you
what
do your thing.
areas do you cover in the city of Philadelphia?
Yeah, so I'm the council member for the 3rd district, so that's much of West and Southwest Philadelphia.
Oh, okay.
She
All
keeps talking about she from West Philly, but
I'm
I mean
from
Southwest Philly,
I'm from
but
King Sussing.
I kind of feel
Unlike
like she
you,
from
you
West
came
Philly.
to
I think you from West Philly because
Southwest
you
when you were a
did
grown
live, but no. You did live majority of your time in Winfield, right?
I moved.
When did y'all move to Winfield?
Excuse me, I moved from Southwest when I was 9, and then I spent the rest of my time in Winfield until I
You
was
from
18.
Winfield?
So that's like
You from Winfield?
half and half.
You from Winfield,
I've been all over.
but because
I've
you
been all
support,
over.
because
And then
you
I moved
support.
back to the district as an adult, and I'm raising my own kids.
Okay, they from Southwest.
Yeah, well, they
You, I don't know.
I'm
But
from
anyway,
everywhere. I'm from everywhere. I done live in Northeast Philly, around here, West Philly. Yeah.
nah, it's cool though. I will allow you to be an honorary Southwest
Whatever.
Phillian because you really do real good work. Like my family, I know they seen you. They was out there with you. Like I said, and I said this before, and I think it's very important the fact that you are tangible. And I'm one of those people. I know it's been a pandemic and all that, you know what I mean, but I still feel like people need to be out and seeing things in real time.
No, you're right.
They do.
You know what I mean? And you're one of those people that be out there real time, like, yo, this is what's going on, and you listening to the people. So I want to definitely, the reason why I'm bringing that up again, and I mess with you about the Southwest thing, because I don't believe any politician in our city right now can, even though you said you do like being in this downtown at City Hall.
I did not say that.
You said
I
that to
said
me
that-
before. You said you like being in the office sometimes. Like you like
I
being
said
down there.
I like being a council member in City Hall as opposed to from my apartment.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay.
It's like a
Like,
more,
well,
it's
my
a more
bad.
exciting
Yeah.
thing.
My bad. I
See,
gave
you
out
just
bad
took what she
information.
said
She don't
and
want to
just
work at
turned
City
it
Hall.
all the way into
She don't want to
something
work at
else.
City
I
Hall.
didn't say
Okay.
I don't like being
No, I'm
in
just
there.
Yeah. The pandemic got everybody.
But I
inside.
think you do a really good job being outside.
Thank you.
And
very
that's
much.
I think that's the most important thing, because you get to see what the people
think it's
are
important.
telling
Yeah.
you. Yo, this block is like this, my house is like that.
Right.
They building something down here, and it's affecting our neighborhood in this
Yeah.
way. And then you get to see it. And a lot of times, and I know you know what I'm talking about, you get these positions and you become detached from your constituency. You know what I mean? And that's the reason why I think it was good that you answered the question. Well, you didn't answer the question, and that was cool.
What's the
Because
question?
no, when I asked you about what were your aspirations, because some people, this is just a career thing for them. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
okay.
So I asked that question not like a setup question, but people can gauge like who you are. Like, do you want to? Oh no, I'm just here to do this and do that and do
Let
this
me
and do
be
that.
more
No, I know you
clear.
want to do
My
more stuff.
aspiration is to make an impact and to actually implement, I think, the agenda that has been crafted on what people told me they wanted to
Right.
see. That's
Right.
my aspiration.
Okay. Okay. But no, again, I can get a council person up here and they'll be like, yo, I want to be state rep. I want to be the mayor. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Because I've talked to people and I'm like, damn, he ain't say nothing. Not on this show, but just personally talking to him. He or she didn't say anything about their constituency. And your job is to serve.
Right.
Yeah.
You got elected by us to serve
Right.
us. You know what I mean? To speak for us and do what we need you to do. Us who are really from Southwest. You know what I mean? So we need a person that's going to be up there doing
shade.
doing what we need them to do for
Absolutely.
Southwest. But again, I'm only asking this question because I know you are around people like that. And I got another question too as you go into the career thing.
Okay.
Because I'm not saying people shouldn't be able to strive and, reach heights
Right.
in their career. But the job that you have, your first responsibility when you get voted in is to serve.
Yeah.
And serving may not allow you to get reelected if you really do what the people in this community want you to do.
Right.
You feel what I'm
it's
saying?
what the
But
people
you
want,
do-
and then there's policy.
exactly, and
when
it's
there's
politics,
when
exactly.
there's that struggle between
Exactly.
the two, it kind of puts you in a position
Right.
where,
But you have to, I know, if I voted you in and then we moving as a group of people who voted you
Right.
in, you need to do what we asked you to do. Now,
Right.
you could come up with ways to be like, oh, what y'all asking me, we got to kind of
Yeah.
tailor it a certain way.
Right.
Cool. Especially if you allow us to know that you're tailoring what we're asking you to do. Because we don't necessarily know. We just want what we want to live better lives in this community.
Absolutely.
So, one, how do you feel about career politicians? Like people you know, and I'm sure you've been around them. You don't have to name any names. If you want to, you could, but you don't have to. Who are like, yo, they here just so they can get more, get further their career. And two, the old guard, especially for us. Why is it that even when you get to this point where you should just be honored, I heard a brother say, when you get to a certain point, you should just be an advisor to the young politicians that's doing what you're doing, instead of trying to be this gatekeeper that just won't go away. And again, you don't have to name names. I know you won't. But those two things bug me a lot. The career people who don't really care about the people that voted them in, and I know you deal with them, and the people who, and this is not just in politics for us, but since you're a politician, who don't like to get out the way and let that new guard who is doing, it's just new energy.
sometimes
they trying to
you
do
gotta
it.
pass the torch.
Right. Like, how,
Yeah.
like, tell me, you don't have to, just tell me your feelings of that. How do you feel about
Well,
those two things?
one, I don't think we should be in these seats forever. I
Right.
think we have a lot of talent in this city and a lot of people who have the energy and the ideas and to lead, in the spirit to lead. And I think that we have to have more opportunities for that to happen.
Right.
So, I've been a supporter for term limits and people only being in a certain position for a certain amount of time. And I ran against someone who was in the seat for almost 30 years.
Right.
And that was like scandalous. People were like,
Yeah.
how dare you?
Right.
How dare you?
When that shouldn't be the case.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I think we have to change our mindset and be more supportive of new people, of younger people wanting to get into politics. And I think that's starting to happen
Right.
in
Yeah.
Philadelphia, and that's a good thing.
I think that's a good thing too.
Yeah. And I don't want to take anything away, I don't want to disrespect, obviously Councilwoman Blackwell created a great legacy and created so many great relationships. And I want to honor that, and everyone who's been in
definitely.
a position for a long time and they've made impact and change. But we
Right.
also have to make room for
Right, it's a
for
legit
new
question.
people to
It's no
be in this
disrespect. It's
process.
just a
Right.
legit question.
Yeah, no,
because
really.
Now, do you think we have, for us in politics, for black folk in politics, do you think we have a good enough development system? Are we really searching out young men and women who want to be in politics, taking political science from these neighborhoods? Do we have anything in place for when you decide that you want to move to another position or just move out of the way or move up? Do we have a system to kind of yo, I got this little 21-year-old young lady or young man. He's from the community. They want to do this. Are we supporting that in
I
any
don't
way?
think
We don't
we
have
have-
nothing
I
going
don't-
on in that
I've
way.
never heard of anything like that.
I don't think we have a good
something
enough
like that.
system.
Yeah, I want to say if something like that exists, I personally
Do you think that that's... Because I always think about that. Because if people groom like family, you know how you see certain families that's in politics?
Yeah.
That's a grooming system.
Yeah.
Like, they're grooming their younger people in the family to understand we do politics.
Right.
I believe that certain... like, I look at the Republican ideology. I see it. I see where they got cats that's next in line at a certain age and he's moving a certain way or she's moving a certain way. And they...
that to some extent. I mean, a lot of that comes from the party system we have.
Right.
So it's like, you know, we have committee people and ward leaders, and a lot of them are pretty connected to the political process and may filter into going for these different opportunities. And also I've seen a lot of elected officials staff, like they step up to run for office. But it's really hard to do that if you don't come from that system. I didn't come from that system.
Right.
I ran nonprofits before I ran for council, right?
Right.
And people were like, how dare you? Like,
right.
How dare you want to run for public office? We need to have, you know, a like, system where even if people don't come from that system, they're not somebody's protege.
Right.
They can step up and do meaningful.
Yeah, like we do, like how they look for talent everywhere else.
Yes.
I think like you know, like you said, I started in an organization doing nonprofit work. So once you moved on to run for office, I'm assuming it might have been some people that was in the organization, young folks that had some promise. Not saying that you had to do it, but I think it would be more intentional for us to start doing that. Like, they're 18, they're 19, they're 20, they into politics. Let's start grooming them. However we're going to do that. And that's what I'm really, like, for black folk, we need to do that. Right. And I just wanted to know, did that exist for real? And y'all telling me, like, nah.
There are some ways to get plugged in. Mostly it's by you being involved in, you know, the city's different party systems, or being connected to a sitting elected official in some way. Right. There are very little opportunities outside of that. And so, yeah, when I ran, it was really hard. It was almost traumatic, you know.
Wow.
Man. But it was a lot of hard work. And so I think you're right that there needs to be better opportunities for people to learn about running for public office and get in there.
About it then.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to sit down. Another thing before I let my sister, you know, do our segment, but I don't do it without her. You know what I'm saying? It's mandatory. She do her thing, you know. My right hand sister, even though she a little further away today. But I got one more thing about what we were saying about our young folks. We need to figure out a way, not just young folks, but we need to figure out a way to teach them professionalism.
Okay.
Like, because it is jobs. It needs to be more jobs. But a lot of them don't even know what to do to keep the job. Right. Something simple as setting your alarm clock to make sure you're on time every day.
Being responsible. Knowing how to talk to people. Knowing how to deal with the customers. Knowing how to deal with your coworkers. Understanding the importance of you coming in at a certain time because your coworker got to leave because they got a whole life to deal with when they can't be waiting for you. You know what I'm saying? That's professionalism. Right. And I think one of the problems with that is the detach from just basic human communication. Our youth and our young folk are communicating so much through these games, through online, through text, through social media.
Right.
You know, that basic human interaction between people, they're not really learning it. They're doing it through electronics somehow, you know, and implementing programs like that specifically to help them into after school programs, into the education system, you know, and at home.
Right.
You know what I mean? It has to start there.
Right.
So I think one of the things that could help that is, speaking of these programs, these preventative programs, some of the things that we can do in these preventative programs is have, you know, mock sessions with, you know, interviews and, you know, doing resumes and, you know, having conversations.
How you deal with your authority,
public speaking, you know what I mean? And, you know, and respecting individuality, diversity, and not being judgmental, looking down on people, and, you know, seeing people for who they are,
Right.
despite y'all differences, respecting it, and still growing and going with what you believe in.
And understanding what you just said, that leads to understanding what is the mission at hand, what is the goal. So you come to a job, I don't care what it is. It could be Wawa's, McDonald's. Everybody is working towards making sure that this store runs correctly.
Exactly.
And you need to understand that you're playing a role, because I deal with this a lot, where people be like, your personal feelings about what's going on outside of your role is not important on the job. It doesn't have anything to do with the job. If they tell you we need these shelves stocked in order for this store to run efficiently, that's all you need to be worried about.
That's it.
Don't worry about all the other stuff. Just know your role. People are rugged individualism is a real thing. It is. We're taught that.
Okay.
As Americans, you can check it out.
It's
a cultural thing for Americans. Rugged individualism, and it leads us to be extremely selfish.
Yeah.
And we wonder why so many people are so selfish. Like, that's American culture. That's the maverick thing. That's the manifest destiny, and I'm creating even with entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
It's this whole thing about my idea is the idea, and everybody need to, coalesce around my idea. Nah, it don't. That's a part of it, but you can't eliminate all the other parts to it.
But those are all things that come with practice.
Yes.
And so we need to give our youth the opportunity to practice these things in our community, in school, and we need to give them opportunities to lead and to create, right?
Yes.
And so those are the opportunities that we should be building for them, especially now.
Leadership.
Do you have any like proteges or anything like that? Apprentice or anything?
Not
anybody that's kind of like,
other than my own teenage children.
That's a lot.
Listen,
I'm sorry. I did form a relationship with 2 other young men in my district who were formerly homeless, but now they're not.
Right.
And I talk to them every day, and they call me mom.
That's
they're kind of like my proteges.
Right. You a mentor. You're a mentor.
Good.
Yo, we
gotta mentor more. Yeah, we have to mentor more of our youth. We really do.
You be doing a lot. On some real, like, I be thinking it just be like, yo, we just in here talking about policy, and I'm gonna stay in the office, and I got all these other people moving around deflecting for me.
But you be like, member.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, no, yeah.
But this is PSA, Philly service announcement.
Love,
Gauthier. Am I pronouncing that right?
Gauthier.
I've been butchering your name.
It's okay. Most people do.
I've been murdering this joint. Now say it again so I can get it right too. Say it one more time.
Gauthier.
Jamie Gauthier. I've been hammering that joint.
Okay.
There's so many people that got your name wrong right now,
because
I've been telling them one more time though. Gauthier.
All I ask is that
it's what she said. Like, it's really easy, bro.
It is. No, but when I'm looking at it, all this other stuff come out. Like, I apologize. Seriously.
It's okay.
Sheesh, you don't even know. You don't know what I've been doing to your name. Like,
well, you got it right now. So
Gauthier.
When you know better, you do better, right?
Ain't no doubt about it. Love, support, and grace.
Yes. TakeOver Tuesdays.
Yo, every Tuesday, 5 p.m. Glockaware
Radio.
The #1 internet radio station in the nation. In the world, Craig.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That was deep. Okay. So, I want to transition a little bit into the Say Her Name segment of the show. And the Say Her Name segment started from a conversation that we had about intersectionality, about how black women are discriminated against because we're women, and we're also discriminated against because of our color of our skin. So there's that point, like, in the road where, we're being discriminated against on both ends.
Yeah.
And that point of intersectionality is just not talked about enough, especially when it comes to black women who are dying at the hands of the police.
Yeah.
So today I want to talk a little bit about a little girl. Her name was Aiyana Jones in Detroit. And the police were serving a warrant and threw one of those smoke bomb things into the house, and it landed on on the couch where she was laying at next to her grandmother. And then they kicked down the door and they shot her in her neck. She was 7 years old. 7 years old. I don't even know where to begin with this. This was in Detroit. I believe this was in like May or something like that. 20 was it?
Several years ago.
Yeah,
right?
2015.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, May of 2015. But a lot of, I really don't know where to begin with that. So many things in my mind is wrong with that situation.
Right.
So apparently a gentleman had got shot earlier in that day, and some informant of the police gave them that address. So they went in, I guess, guns blazing, nothing about who's in the house. This is a 7-year-old and her grandma sleeping on the couch. And I just feel like because of the community, it was the African American community, black community, I just don't feel like the value of life is there.
Mm-hmm.
You should be able to execute your job and value life and not take it away. It's no reason that y'all didn't knock on the door, y'all didn't announce yourself, y'all didn't say anything. Y'all threw the smoke thing through the window, it landed on the couch, and the little girl must have like got up and and y'all come through the door and shoot her in the neck. 7 years old. She couldn't have been but so tall.
Mm-hmm.
So y'all men like,
see, my thing is always whenever we talk about this, my thing is always the same thing, like just like what you said, the valuing. So y'all not even going to do y'all proper due diligence, y'all proper investigation, because one, the community that you going into.
Exactly.
You know the community, because if this was an affluent community, an affluent white community, it didn't necessarily be an affluent. It could be a working class.
Yeah.
You're going to do your due diligence. You're not going to go in guns blazing. Exactly. And that's where everything starts. Well, what you said, y'all got this information from an informant. Mm-hmm. So that needs to be double checked, because you already know the history of informants. They're out doing whatever they're doing just so they can stay out. So they coming up with anything. They throwing anything at y'all. Yeah, this guy doing that. He doing that. She doing this. Because they just want to stay out. Because 9 times out of 10, your informant is somebody that probably should be in jail. You know what I'm saying? And right. I'm somebody that been in jail, and I'm gonna say how like what it really is. Right. He or she has done multiple things, because you normally don't just become an informant after getting one crack case or one gun case. No, this is somebody that y'all knows the community,
has a history of some sort,
and they can get a certain amount of information out of this community, because it's like, oh, you could a crime over here, you could a case over here, so you from here, you know all the players. Okay. But that information is always questionable, because why are you being an informant? Because you don't want to go to jail. It's not about justice, preventing crime. The informant is there for one reason and one reason only. He don't want to go to jail.
That's it.
She don't want to go to jail.
Exactly.
They have no crusade, no purpose that they rocking with.
None.
So that information should always be scrutinized, and y'all know that.
Yep.
But because of the community that this is going on in, you just going to take whatever they say, because that's going to be your ticket to the judge.
Yep.
When the judge say, well, why would y'all do it? Well, we have a trusted informant who told us X, Y, Z, and then the judge going to move on that. So my thing with this case is, before you even get to the baby, the fact that this baby shouldn't have been harmed. Y'all didn't care about the community. Y'all went into this community looking at it like, oh, these them niggas.
Yeah.
So we going to do whatever we going to do.
Go in here, and we going to shoot and kill whoever. It don't matter.
Yeah.
And that's what the conversation. That's where it should start at.
A
like
her lack of care.
Right.
Yes,
her being killed is the biggest component to it. But that all starts because of the community that they were going in and how they feel like they could treat the community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and because they don't, at the end of the day, value black lives.
Exactly.
Because the informant thing like kills me, because you got these people really basically running around like rogue police officers. An informant is running around like a rogue police officer. A rogue, for real. especially the ones that work for the feds. Because these cats is out here shooting.
They can do whatever they want.
They doing whatever they want. So we can ask that question.
Because they informants.
Would y'all allow these type of people to basically be doing police work in other communities? Would you allow that? Would you allow it?
No.
I don't believe they would.
No.
Because a lot of what these informants do is they incite more crime. Because they're able to move around in our neighborhoods with carte blanche.
Yep.
They know they're not going to jail. They know the feds is coming. So whenever it get too tight, they can call up whoever their handler is. So like that in of itself tells you what they think about our community.
People.
But also the fact that, I mean, this happened with Breonna Taylor too, right?
Yeah.
So,
and a number of other cases, we talked about one before too, where they shot through the door and shot the baby and killed the mom. Yeah. So yeah, this has happened.
But if this had happened over and over again to white people, we would have already banned no-knock warrants.
Yeah,
That's the only reason why this is allowed to
Exactly.
continue happening. And then, in fact, I believe that's a component of what's in the George Floyd bill,
Right.
that has not passed the Senate yet,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
But because it's a black little girl that died, because it's a black young woman that died, it's not a big enough deal.
It's not big enough issue
to the Senate.
But we want to say her name again.
Yes, we do. Aiyana Jones.
Aiyana Jones.
Aiyana Jones. Say her name, y'all.
So this has been a really, really dope show. You have to come back. I'm not even asking. I don't ask people are they coming. I just tell them they're coming back. So you're gonna come
kind
back.
of a bully.
I'm only coming back if you stop messing with me about being from Southwest.
Exactly. Tell them again. Tell them again.
Tell them who you are one more time,
Yes,
so they can know,
please.
and they can know you. Let them know who you are.
I'm council member Jamie Gauthier. I represent Philadelphia's 3rd District. Thank you for having me.
We appreciate you being
Yes,
on the
we
show.
appreciate you. Thank you.
Love, support, grace. Every Tuesday, 5 to 6. We out of this, John.
PSA.
PSA, Philly service announcement.
All right. Thank y'all. We out.
Unblockaware.com.